We'll find that
Well,
out.
welcome to today's ITAM Kitchen, the place where we have all sorts of fun in different ways, including with AI. I mean, artificial intelligence. Little did we know we started doing this 3 weeks ago. Oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I can't keep track. That we've been having this much fun. We're having a blast. And if those that haven't been here before, my name's Mr. Bill. I go by Mr. Bill in the industry. Mr. Bill ITAM. Got that from a conference years ago. Because yeah, everybody knows me as Mr. Bill, which is great. From the Saturday Night Live skit, if you've never seen it, just look on YouTube. Just Saturday Night Live, Mr. Bill, and you'll have a lot of fun with that. And a lot of people have had fun with me on that. And I also have Robert Collins here with me. May have a couple other guests still joining. As we know, it's cold. People are waking up slowly. And we just happen to be on the East Coast. It's like, what the heck? Let's make it happen. Here we are. And today's topic is the use cases for AI. Now, keep in mind, this is session number 3. We've been doing this already for 2 days. The first day we talk about guardrails in place. We had some great participants here. And make that happen. Yesterday we had Robert and Don Champlin here. We talked about a lot of governance. We actually got more governance discussions more than anything else. Governance as well as regulatory. How do you think about what we're putting in place, as well as tying in with those guardrails and making sure guardrails that we're putting in place is for the corporation, not just AI itself, because we've got to think about what happens within our own data, how we're sharing it, how we're putting that forward. And today we're talking about some of the use cases. I mean, maybe we should start with the use cases a little bit. Great. But with the governance and what we're moving forward, now we're talking about the use cases. And if you haven't seen it, this is actually based upon an article I posted yesterday about AI, asset management, software asset management, configuration management. And with it, being able to say, okay, how are we putting this in place? How are the stakeholders involved? Who needs to be involved from what angle? And it was the use cases built into there as well. And if you haven't taken a look at it, take a look at it. I'm hearing some great reviews and feedback on it. It's not that I knew all the answers. I don't, and I never will. But I had fun putting it together. And the whole idea is, how can we make it more enabled within our communities so that we can start embracing it more? Because honestly, 6 months ago, I was impacted as much as anybody else. It's like, okay, well, AI's here, and the vendors start saying, well, we don't need asset management or anybody managing anymore because AI can deal with it all. Within the last 48 hours, we haven't just disproved it. We've said, guys, really? No, we're not even close. Now, I want to enable and help me be more strategic, but let's not talk about that. So enough about all that stuff. Robert, I want you to introduce yourself real quick and then we can jump right in and have fun with this.
Yeah, that's great. It's just a brief introduction. I've been 30 plus years of experience within the ITAM space, within IT, and even a little bit more if you go back to things like technology and communications, et cetera. And I kind of, through the career, I could come through like state of Florida official government service in 2 different agencies. That was 24 years of it right there. And now today I'm here to talk about the leveraging of AI towards ITSM and really in ITAM and how we get that approach. And Bill's put out a great document. I highly recommend that, and if we could post a link to that, that would be great. But everybody really should give it a pass. One of the greatest things about that is it helps the greatest challenge. How do you get started? Where do you begin? Bill's document does a great job of sort of putting that in front of you and saying, now I've got an idea of where to start and where to go. And that's it. Back to you, Bill.
No, I appreciate, because you're absolutely right. It's not about knowing all the answers. It's about figuring out, okay, how are you able to go that next step? That's how we're talking about everything we're talking about, right? That's our life. If you think about asset management, we very much have to be in the learning mode for everything we do. We have to. In this case, we have a whole new technology that's really shaking up our world, but actually it is, but it's not. Here's how I look at AI. If you weren't doing your job properly before, you have a complete spotlight on you now because the data's not right and whatever is happening, that now it's time to do it correctly. I just look at it that way. And if you're not used to a little bit of pressure, well, welcome to the family. We have to deal with pressure. And we can talk, that can be a whole separate session because the amount of stress and what we have to work through as far as the dialogue, et cetera, there's a lot of challenges. You have to have some thick skin in this part. But if you didn't have thick skin and you enjoy it, you learn how to get thick skin quickly. On that side. Absolutely. Well, so as we move forward here, let's dig into this because let me see if I can get that link. Let me put that link up real quick.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. It's such a
put
great
that
story.
Okay, I've got the little QR code. I'm going to go ahead and leave that QR code up. That QR code that you see on screen, feel free to scan it, move it forward. It'll put you straight to the link. It's on LinkedIn, so you'll be able to see it on that side. And if you're on LinkedIn, please identify where you're from. Put it in the chat. Forgot to say that. Should I just jump into it? I have so much fun with this. But yeah, talk about where you're from and put that in place. But take a look at the playbook because we're going to be talking through these use cases. Because when I put this together, I said, you know what? Let's identify some key use cases and put some context towards it, how to move forward. But as we were having our dialogue here, we even had this yesterday. If you didn't see yesterday's session, feel free. It's on LinkedIn and YouTube both. It's about, okay, let's talk through some of this. It's already in motion. Let's talk through this. How can we put this in place? So, okay, so let me share the screen on that part, and we can just dive into it and go wherever we want to. I did create a few slides to help in the dialogue, just for those that have not seen it before. And let me put it in here. Screens, still learning some of the tech here. So hopefully that came up with the correct screen. Oh, look at that. Oh, magic. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, because trust me, I'm not in the setup I was supposed to be 15 minutes ago. So we never know where we're going to be sometimes. But let's go through this. Because the whole idea is when we're working through the use cases, how are we looking at this a little differently? So just diving into it, we don't have to go one by one, but what sticks out to you, Robert, to help our dialogue? In what says, okay, this works or this doesn't work? Because I'm all for feedback and insight on this. Yeah.
So we don't necessarily have to take the steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, but what we can do is we can say, as an ITAM professional, for instance, for everybody that's listening, the question to you is, what keeps you awake at night? What's the hardest part of the job? What drives you crazy, takes time, is complicated, is error prone, etc. Right? So the automated asset discovery and classification, which is listed here, is a really great place to start with that. Right? And so you're going to be managing hardware, you're going to be managing things like software, SaaS, and cloud-based platforms, right? These are all assets, right? And the hard part is, how do you take your existing tools, for instance, and leverage those to do this kind of discovery, right? So AI can help in a number of ways there in identifying the types of assets, let's say, that you should be looking for that are displayed. Or for that matter, is it one of those things where you've got to go run agents and do that discovery, or somehow or another you had an absolutely perfect procurement system that recorded every single purchase, who it went to, etc. Well, that's probably one of the best places that you can start. But if you don't, right, this is a place where you can leverage AI to kind of assist in that endeavor. So that's one of the things that popped right out to me. And then one of the others had to do with, and really kind of coming from the document itself, is looking at who is it that you're talking to when you're trying to sell either an ITAM program or the services within that program. You're going to identify who are those major stakeholders and players that have budget, that can give you approval, that have the authority to assist you with pushing your program out. Then there's another great place to consider where you may be able to use AI, for instance, to kind of tease that stuff out. So those are the couple of things that pop right out to me, but there's so much more. I highly recommend you read the document.
No, it's absolutely, and to your point, you brought up a very good point, and I didn't. It's all about the dialogue, right? It's easily to get overwhelmed. It's easy to get overwhelmed with this, and you have to. It's crawl, walk, run. I threw some examples out here because everyone's at different stages of maturity and how they look at it. And that's important, right? Because when we look at different stages of maturity, okay, how are we able to move forward, right? And that's important, because if you overwhelm yourself, you're not helping anybody, because you have to be a leader in this one, right? And from that, say, okay, you want to do discovery. I'm trying to figure out how to move a logo. So there we go. Sometimes you never know what you're going to have with technology as you're doing it live. Here you go. That's, you want to talk about imperfection? Yes, it's here, and that's part of our role, right? But just knock it right off. Maybe you're doing discovery, and you have discovery, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I get this to be better normalized? We've been talking about that, right? It's great for data normalization. I mean, I used to script this all the time. I've always been the integration guy with asset management. And it's like, okay, how do you get this data, the glob of data? I'll just call it that one.
Yeah.
I don't know other word to use it. The glob of it with multiple different sources, and you align it. You have that naming convention. And certain vendors have their library, right? And being able to figure out, okay, how to put that, how to further drive that, right? And with that, being able to say, okay, where do we start? What do we want to name it, right? Like, how many different versions of HP can you see for Hewlett Packard, right? I always use that as a great example, right? And put that in place. So when you think about that, is being able to say, okay, how do you put that in, how do you normalize that? How do you put the classification in place? And the classification, if you've just an asset management, you're not looking to CMDB, you always had the different classes, right? I always call it categories. I'm a little asset center guy myself. The categorization, how you put that in place. But when you start talking about tying that to the CIs, the configuration items, you have to worry about also the classifications. What class is that going to be from a CI perspective? And that's also important. We don't even tie that in here too much. As an example, that's something in the future. But when you talk about how you're classifying it, that's where that's really headed, going that next step. So when you move that forward, and just as an example, that's where you start. Because you say, okay, all the magic happens and just happens, right? Well, that's one of the worst things that can happen, is to say it's magically going to occur. Because Robert, I don't let you, but I know every time I walk into a project, yeah, this is what the sales guy said it would work, and this is going to happen within 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is, and we have to reset expectations, right? And that's just kind of how it works. How many times do we do that? Like every time, right?
Oh, yes.
Being able to put that in place. But when you think about that, it's being able also to say, how do you drive it? How do you look at that? And again, back to what Robert was saying, where's the need?
Yeah.
And actually, I look at it a little bit differently too, is I want to get to where the need. I think that's part two. I don't know if that's part one, and here's why. Part one is I want to know what you're doing well, extremely well. I want to validate the system works and compare it with what's really working really well today, and then get to the need. Does that make sense, Robert?
Yeah, it does. It's perfect. It's a process gap analysis.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
Literally, it's that simple, right? But it's easily overlooked. Is the only reason I bring that up, right? It's like, okay, let's get back to the basics and working through that. That's huge. And that's where you start understanding, and the reason why, I've been in many, in front of executives. I say, okay, we got these problems, et cetera. And I said, okay, that's great. Also, it's like, what are you doing well? Totally throws them off every time, because they're used to hearing complaints. That's what's in their ear. That's what bugs them. That's what keeps them up at night. I said, okay, well, tell me what's working around. Well, and then they say, well, this is this. And it's like, cool, I know where to start.
Yeah.
It provides them confidence as well that we have the right solution going in place, that they actually are going to buy in on that. Right? And that's important. So when you think about the AI and all the stuff, these are actually also, when it comes to proof of concepts, these are great scenarios. Right? Vendors like, oh, we get AI put in there. Great. Let's sign on the dotted line. It's like, really?
To that, like, there's another thing I was thinking, and that is, like, as many times as I've had engagements with customers, right? You always hear a lot of bad, let's say there's a bad image, let's say, of firefighting, okay? Everybody wants to go from being reactive to proactive, right? But honestly, if you have fires, put them out, because that's probably going to be your biggest pain point. If you're working through your program, you can do this. You can leverage AI towards that, toward identifying those fires, let's say, that you haven't identified, and in doing analysis of your current environment. And then from there, once you've identified the fires, put the resources in, utilize AI, do that, and now you can move to the more proactive and the fire prevention aspect of asset management. That's really, I think, where anybody should be taking this and thinking to themselves, if I want to mature this organization, let's stop the bleeding, as far as cost overruns and overages, et cetera, and under usage, and let's get that taken care of first. So if you wanted to have, let's say, assume that you're going to use AI and you're going to work with that, prioritize what it is that you want to do within your organization first, and then you could move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you start thinking about that, and let's just dig into one, right? Let's dig into one of these. End of life, end of support notifications. Yeah. Honestly, when you talk about AI, that's really simple. Mm-hmm. That's extremely simple. You say, well, I don't have the data. That's a great example. If you don't have the data, how can you do the notifications?
Yeah. Back in the day, I had my crews doing this. Is like, we had basically like daily and weekly activities, right? So I have a team, usually it's no bigger than 3 back in the day, and they need stuff to do. Okay, well, great. Here, take a look at our inventory and go out there and let's see if we can't get information on end of life, end of support start with the hardware. You could even do it with software, and often you do. But sure, there's a really good place to leverage AI across your entire inventory, if of course your inventory is to the point where it's trustworthy. But you could also leverage it towards the inventory management as well. So,
absolutely.
And again, this, take this to heart. You can't just let it go, unbabysitted. You have to go back and you have to review what you come back with, and as soon as you get a good, comfortable, good feel and some confidence around what your AI is doing for you and bringing back, then it's like, oh, okay, good. This one can be optimized at some point. We can move to some other activity that's difficult, painful, takes a very long time, and say, all right, well, how can we leverage AI to take care of that, sort of reduce the pain on that?
And you may be able to stage it too, right?
Yeah.
Because Robert, you and I are both maturity type folks, right? So you have to have a different level of maturity, because the organizational maturity you have for bringing this fully online is not just a snap. It's just not, right? You have the organizational change where everyone has to get buy-in, has to apply it. And it's like, well, it's going to happen. I literally was just talking to a customer yesterday. It's like, I want this done in 3 weeks, and we're just going to immediately apply. And they're having a hard time just asset tracking, and which is great. Okay, they're honest and putting it forward, and then we'll have it fully aligned within 30 days. It's like, okay, if that's where you want to go, that's great. It's like, and I said, do you need help with that? What do you mean? It's like, you have your day job. This is a lot to take on. On top of it, right? You have to think about that. And when you think about that for AI, I'm going to bring it to the current state, right? Is figuring out, okay, how are you embracing this new task, this new role? Ideally, it's supposed to take things off of you. Absolutely. That's where it's headed. But the immediate notification, and this is just that level of maturity, you got a little bit of a bell curve, right? That learning effort to make that happen. And that's what we're not hearing about today. As far as you have that little bit of a learning curve from the queries, from the technology, how your integrations, how the data works. You can even talk about quality data behind all of this, right? How you're looking at measurements. That's kind of tied into it. It's underlying. We just don't talk about that. But those are all key components to help you just become compliant.
Yep.
And that's key, right? So from that, the whole idea here was actually kind of a brainstorm, brain dump. What's happening? Now, I could have gone for like another 20 easily use cases on this, but the whole idea is, okay, where do you start, right? And this is also the level of maturity, again, back from the organization, because I know if you're looking at it from a government perspective, you're going to say, oh, I want all this, right? But from your perspective, Robert, what would you tell a government agency that says, I want all of this immediately?
Yeah. you want everything all at once, good luck, because you can't get that in any of the other services that you're getting either, and much less from the services that you provide. So I would tell them, okay, back up. First, let's identify the everything that you want, right? And then let's do a little bit of an assessment on this, in so much as, let's say, a risk to your business, or let's say how much value you're going to get out of putting activity and money behind any one of those functions. And let's start there. Everybody wants everything all at once, and nobody ever gets that. Nobody. So I say, yeah, it's a worthy pursuit, but set those expectations early to say, well, let's take a look at, let's say, the first third of those things in your list, right? And then we'll examine, we'll prioritize everything else beyond that. But again, it comes back to that whole, everybody wants to be really mature or hear that they are, but more often than not, and the vast majority of customers that I've had in the past all come, it doesn't matter the scale, 1, 4, 5, 6 levels of maturity. All of the folks that come in, typically they're discovering this for the first time. They come to you because they had a problem. There's a fire to put out. There's some emergency. There's an audit letter, something like that. So once you've taken care of that, like I said before, now you can start looking at here's what everything looks like. Here's what we can get put together, let's say, within a reasonable time frame, 1 to 2 years, right? Because in any of these things, in the end, you're going to have some deliverables, and they're going to include, at very least, a high-level roadmap about what to address, how to address it, and then what precursors are going to be in place once those are, that lead to the other. It's a dependency relationship between those things.
Absolutely. You bring up a good point there too, is plan it out.
Yeah.
Is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is a great example of that, right? You have to take on what you can take on. You realize you're already overwhelmed. The whole idea is, how can you ease yourself? It's kind of like you take on that new gadget, right? The new iPhone. You're going to buy that new iPhone with a new gadgetry, and it has all these new features, and you want to figure it all out. It's going to take you a little bit of time. You have to put a little bit of elbow grease, I'll just say that, into it. And then you have to say, okay, now it's going to help alleviate a lot of the extra stuff I'm working on. I'm a gadget guy as much as anybody else. Usually not phones. There are lots of reasons why but that's different. Trust me, I'd love to still have my BlackBerry back in the day. In some ways, I love it back. But being able to say, okay, in this case, the reconciliation, disposal, again, everyone's a different level of compliance. That's why I put something like this together. And even that forecasting, because the forecasting, where it says asset lifecycle forecasting, that actually can be extreme. It's a different level of maturity. Where are you? Are you talking about budgeting, right, for 1 year? Are you talking about the 5 year? How you bring it in place? How you further incorporate that, right? Cool. Okay. I'm just looking on the side, making sure I don't have anybody else joining at the moment, which so far we're good. And being able to say, okay, how can we further drive this? Because you have to, and maybe you want to leverage these and say, I need to prioritize these. That's a great way to start. That's a great place to start, and review this with leadership and say, this is what's going through my brain. Or maybe you have a different twist to it. Start here. Again, these are things that within the document, if you haven't seen the playbook, I put the playbook out again yesterday. It's within the QR code here on the screen, right there on LinkedIn. So take a look. Mm-hmm. And really being able to further assist and say, okay, let's start here. But keep in mind, this is just ITAM, general ITAM. This was not going through everything. This is just getting us started and go that next step. So, Robert, when we look at this, one last question I'll ask on this one. Mm-hmm. What would you consider the first thing for you? What would you consider the first thing to tackle on the list and the last thing to tackle on this list?
Okay, so the first thing that I would tackle on this list is probably the discovery. And also, by the way, can you hear me?
You sound great.
Okay, good. All right. So let's do that. So let's do this, because let's get the discovery and classification thing done first. You have to know what it is that you have so that you can manage it, right? And most of the other problematic activity down the line typically will come out of a lack of, let's say, confidence in the data, right? So that's a really big one. And that's one that I found across most of the folks that I've worked with in the past. right? And then the next thing would probably be an easy one, for instance, is in your ITSM system, you're taking track of incidents and you're taking track of problems, and you're taking track of requests. So if you're doing that, you should be getting all of your, let's say, failures, for instance, and there should be some after analysis, some after the fact analysis. So if that's the case, that's going to feed you like sort of the predictive, for instance, like hardware analysis. Let me see. Yeah, the failure alerts, for instance. So you can know ahead of time what you can expect from failures, because one model might be superior, only maybe 3-4 failures a year. But another model, for instance, across your organization might represent hundreds of tickets, right? Which means move to problem management. And then in addition to that, you can also see how much is this going to cost us, let's say, over the course of the next, let's say, 2 business quarters or the next year, et cetera. So if you can address those things, right, then you're going to save yourself some money in the long run, even if it means just getting that hardware out of there and making a replacement available. So there's a couple of them there. And then the next thing too, kind of when you get a good feel for your organization and the data moving back and forth, if you're fairly confident in that, move to automation, because that's where a lot of your savings are going to be applicable. And AI is remarkably good at doing things like generating code. Now, of course, like anything else, you want to review that code, you want to test it, et cetera, right? It's never 100% satisfaction with that, but it's getting better over time. I've used it in a number of instances, and I've been satisfied with the results. So there's just a couple of places right there. And then, Bill, what was your take on that?
Absolutely, because you treat it like any type of project. I'll be honest. I would treat just a regular project. Okay, how much can you take on at one time? And when you start thinking about the life cycle, and again, what's the biggest pain you're able to further refine on that? How can you further grow, right? Because maybe you have your asset tracking down, you have the automation in place, you're having your normalization already because you've done the work. It's like, okay, we're not going to focus on that for AI today. Maybe later when we talk about system upgrade, we're going to go down that path. Great. You might be towards cost allocation and chargeback. Mm-hmm. That might be where you are. And that's a great analogy. That's a great spot for it, because honestly, today, I'll say with ITAM, we've gotten lazy in that spot. We've gotten really lazy. It's like, well, we don't want to deal with that. It's like, guys, you have to. I mean, some of the biggest projects I've done in my entire career with the cost allocation and chargebacks have been the most successful projects that stay long-term, because at that point, they've got a lot of effort and the entire your governing bodies in place, including the correct stakeholders to make sure that's occurring. And I say stakeholders, okay, you have finance, you have a CIO, you've got those guys, great. But you also have the department heads. Those are actually paying those costs. They're going to say, I don't want to pay that. And the dialogue's happening. It's not an and being adversarial about it. It's like, okay, let's have a conversation. That's how I treat it. Because at that point, that means you're paying attention, which is really our biggest problem we have with ITAM is people just use it, again, they think it's a backroom operation, and they don't realize how important it is to the business. So that's what comes to mind for me on this one, Robert, is being able to say, okay, let's again, look at the maturity and further drive that. Because again, the end of life, end of support notifications may happen because you have equipment going out the door and you don't realize what's there. Yeah, never happens, ever happens, right? Yeah. So that's what comes to mind on that. So let's move on to SAM, right?
Yeah.
SAM-IM. Because here, I like asset management doing the hardware side because it's some of the fundamentals, and those are great on that part. But when you talk about SAM, the license utilization, the optimization, again, you have some of that normalization happening in place. Yeah. It's also that awareness, because this is where, for me, how I think about this and put an AI in place helps me understand, okay, what's happening within my environment or what I'm not currently focusing on. Right? And that's important for me because, again, you're trying to manage all this, but you can only focus on one thing at a time. Now, we all have ADHD. We had that chat with Chad last week. We understand ADHD is going to help us, so we go from one task to the next. But even with that being the case, for me, if I have a dashboard that says, okay, I know I need to go deal with this executive report. I've got a vendor renewal coming up, and I've got to get a report out tomorrow. I've got to respond to this other audit request, and I've got a team member dealing with a personal item. I need to deal with that. It's like, please just give me a heads up. Heads up. What else do I need to be aware of? And that's what I like about this. It's like, okay, let's start understanding. Okay, and some of those dashboards are already built in some of the tools. And that, yeah, I mean, ServiceNow and FlexEra have actually done a pretty good job on some of those. I'll just go ahead. It's not a professional plug or anything. I'm not trying to plug them, but I've been around the products. They've done pretty well on being able to do that. Is it perfect? It's not. But it's not perfect anywhere. So if you're able to say, okay, I want to know my shadow IT detection, and you can say that's also for the hardware. You could throw it over there too if you want. But I know kind of where my excess license usage is occurring. That's huge, right? Mm-hmm. That's just what comes to mind for me initially on this one. How about you, Robert? What comes to mind on this one? What tickles that fancy, right?
There's a few things. Shadow ID detection, for instance, pops up for me because of some of the tools and vendors that I've worked with in the past, right? And what's interesting about that is, and if you have an issue within your organization and you really want to get down to where the shadow IT is located, right? You can use AI and leverage that to our analysis of the spending that happens with employees. They do monthlies, at least 30, 60, 90, but typically like monthlies. They do submissions of expenses, right? And so you can utilize this to find traces of where IT products are purchased, subscriptions were purchased. And so there's a place right there where you can focus. Another is if you've ever had the chance to go and talk to some of the vendors that make these products, right? Some of which Bill mentioned, right? Discuss with them and get your engineers in the room when you ask about what's the methodology, how is it that you're detecting the use of shadow IT, right? And you can utilize AI to assist in that, right? So that if, let's say, you don't want to go forward with a tool, what you could do then is you could do the detection and analysis and the engineering of that up front, test that as you go against known cases, let's say, or test platforms, and then roll that out once your confidence again increases on that. So that's definitely a really good one. Another one, which is great because it's really expensive, but it's one of the best world-class tools that you can have for SAM management, and that's the Technopedia. And I don't know how many people have attempted to replicate the Technopedia, but it is really a world-class system. But what you can do, for instance, is if you understand that, is that you can utilize AI if you want to build up. Going back to those version examples, I had the idea or the thought popped in my mind is somebody comes in, an exec, and says, I need a complete list of all Adobe Acrobat titles since 1992, if they were even around that, up until current day. And you'll have thousands and thousands and thousands of these things listed. And then if that list is going to be used to do detection within your organization and get everybody up to the same level or get the proper product allocated to the use, this is a beautiful place where you can leverage AI to assist in that endeavor. Note, I said assist.
Mm-hmm. No, that's perfect because that's why AI is here, right? Again, provide that additional guidance. It's like having an extra helper because it's and I've put this we always have these junior assistants, right? Well, that's kind of where AI is. That's exactly where it is being able to say, okay, how can it further help us in what we do and how we look at this. And that's extremely important on that part, because if we have someone helping with the analytics, helping provide that awareness to us, helping say, okay, how can we have better insight on what we're worrying about? And we're always going to be blindsided. If you think it's going to help you not be blindsided, it will to a degree, but you're still going to be blindsided by something because that's just life. It doesn't matter. You can get blindsided in your house just walking down the hallway and your kids, dogs, toys, whatever it is, right? And just trust me, I deal with dog toys all the time too. So just to make it even weirder. But it's that junior assistant being able to help you through that, right? That's cool. Oh, let me check on something. Hold on. I think I have Don.
Good.
Don's there. Cool. Don, you still there?
Bring him in.
Oh, okay. I'll bring him back in a minute. I think you had to step away for a second. Okay, we're gonna pay attention to that. Sorry, I just saw it came on screen, and we'll get Don Champlin on here to join us in a minute because I'm curious on some of his thoughts from how this works as well. Because when you start the deal, software asset management, there's so much we have to deal with. Because I don't know about you, Robert, but I know for me all the time they said, "Oh, I want to understand the entire portfolio of software and understand all the licensing across the board." It's like, that's nice. And by when?
We could build a dashboard for that. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like this will help you get there sooner is the best way to put it. Because it doesn't happen magically. Entire portfolio, it doesn't, because the thing I always tell executives when they say that, it's like, okay, so you have this problem, you don't know where your software spend is. It says, yep. I said, how long have you had software in your environment? As long as I've been around the company, 20, 25, 30, 50 years, whatever it is. I say, okay. And did you track it then?
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not going to happen within 30 days. Sorry. We got some other additional governance and bring that into play. So there's Don. Let me bring Don here on screen. Don, you're coming live here. Just heads up. There you are. There's the man right there. There's Don Champlin.
Good to see you.
There's Don. Oh, he's live. Okay. He doesn't realize he's live. It's okay.
It's okay. It's all right.
There he is. There's the man.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Don. You're live. For some reason we can't hear you, sir.
We can give him.
You know what happens with technology?
I am here. I'm sorry, guys.
There you go. Good.
That's okay. Hey, we figured it out. It's all good.
Well, technology is a problem at times.
It's ever changing.
Absolutely. So I've heard some of this. So let's
yeah. So
up.
Just to bring you up to speed a little bit on this one, we were talking about ITAM in general as some of those use cases, and now we're talking about software, and we're talking about that. This is like having that junior assistant helping us, right?
Right.
As we move forward, right? And being able to say, okay, how can that junior assistant make our life easier and better? And that's really the crux behind this.
Right.
And when you think about that, that's extremely key to say, okay, how do we work and have better understanding of what our environment is? And this helps elevate our role as well as the SAM manager, right?
Right.
So what Robert and I were talking about the SAM, and I appreciate you. Like I said, we all have technology issues. I had my own technology issues this morning too.
I know.
This is not the environment I'm supposed to be in. But we were saying kind of more the advanced part of this is there's, when you talk about optimization, forecasting, some of that, that's more the advanced parts. It was, but we were talking about what really tickled our fancy as far as when we looked at the list here, Don, and just kind of put you on the spot. Is there something immediately to say, okay, I'd love for AI to help from what I've seen with customers to help improve this area?
Okay. Yeah, the contract and license agreement analysis is definitely the point at which I think AI really needs to shine, because we really get to be talking about the data itself, as we talked about yesterday, and you got to get everybody on the same stream. So for preparing a use case, and we're looking at this, and we're looking at the software that's involved, I'm going to make this assumption: we have already connected enough with the customer to begin to get his trust in us, because we would have performed an assessment to see what the landscape looks like and where we are in this situation. And the key here is we've got to be truthful. We've got to say it like it is, but we also have to say it with a story that helps us validate what we're talking about. For example, I mentioned an insurance company yesterday, And when we were doing that
Yes.
analysis, I could stand with validation because we had looked at it and I'd analyzed it, assessed it, and they had 75 different inputs. That was a major problem because they couldn't guarantee the accuracy of the data, and that's where they got in trouble with the Federal Reserve Board. So there lies the challenge, and there lies what this use case has to address. So how did I approach that? I went back to a former customer and said, "Look, this is what happened here, and here's why it happened." And it was all back around the contract license and agreement analysis. And I give him a story that was a use case that shows how we actually forecasted it, validated it, and and met the objectives we said we would be able to meet. At that point in time, we couldn't because they had to go back to try to get a contract renegotiation with the vendor that was sourcing their infrastructure and supporting it, and that was a pretty hard difficulty. But it happened eventually, and they got it straightened out. So there's that works in that thing. You've got to be able to pull the right things together and validate, and then move forward and show if you're gonna forecast a return on investment, if you're gonna forecast an increase in customer satisfaction and involvement and the KPIs that are associated with that, to get those things validated as to what that impact could be, and move forward with it, and then show that, and have periodic reviews of that once you're in there doing the actual project. That's what makes it work.
No, that's some great points and some great follow through on that too, right? Because at that point you're building that trust.
And it's all about trust, and it's all about unity of commitment. I had a correspondent with one of the guys. It was Chris Paul, or Paul. It was Chris Paul. It was on the thing yesterday. We talked about that. What's the biggest challenge? People. Between people, process, and technology, the people is the biggest challenge because people have free will and people make decisions, and you've got to get people to buy in, to get committed, and to embrace it. You have to embrace the commitment, and that takes free will, a little bit of surrender of your own thoughts and actions, so that you can collaborate effectively. You can agree to disagree, and then come back when the things go in the direction that maybe you took a stand and agreed to disagree, and they come back, because then you can help, and helping is what it's all about. That's how you maintain that unity of purpose.
No, that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that back, because you're right. At the end of the day, we are serving others. That's our total goal here. It's not to control others. I mean, some people manage their budgets. That's great. But it's not, I mean, for example, if you're in Europe, or you probably do, there's some smaller organizations that probably manage budgets as far as ITAM here in the States, as an example, but it's very few and far between in the States, because we actually have that being done by other parts of the organization. But we're actually serving data so people can make decisions. That's our core goal here. And it's back to basics, right? On that part. So no, I appreciate bringing that up.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And the key important is success is build confidence, and the confidence builds that commitment to buy into what you want to do. With the customer, HEB, customer service is important. They bought into it, and by gosh, they do whatever's necessary, because they buy into the overall goal.
Absolutely. Now, if you have any questions or comments there, if you're in the room, feel free to chime in, ask your questions right there. I'm doing my best to pay attention to the chat at the same time. I'm seeing my chat window for some reason not working again, but I've still got to figure that out. Again, we're all having technology issues in different places, so we're working through that. Yeah, so we're working that part. But if you have questions, et cetera, I am trying to pay attention through multiple systems to make sure that I'm getting your questions here as well. But let's move on, because as we move through it, we're already 45 minutes of this discussion, which is awesome. It's also about CMDB, right? So I purposely try to put asset management, software asset management, configuration management together, but because we're basically brethren, brothers and sisters in the same family, trying to figure out how to make the data work to help the rest of the organization do their business, right? And as we know, CMDBs are typically more operationally based more than anything else, but it's being able to say, okay, how can we help that in that different area? Now, natively, each one of us, because we came up the asset management ranks, we started the asset management and we learned about CMDB and going down that path, right? So we had to further evolve, which is great. But as doing that also helped us a lot of the operational activities we're working with. And being able to further formalize that. Because I know when I was an end user support person, I didn't worry about a lot of this. This was just not in my cup of tea, my bailiwick from that standpoint. I was worried about keeping the user online. Operationally, they were good to go, and inventory it. That's where I started, right? But when you start thinking about this as far as AI, you have some of this already happening today, like the dynamic discovery relationship mapping. Okay, so we renamed it. We have the automation happening for AI, right? You have some of the databases, and you're able to help normalization a little bit greater. Okay, fine. Or that next number 2, the self-healing. If you think it's going to be a self-healer, you're going to hand over the system, and all of a sudden it's going to be fixed, even with AI. I'm not sure where you heard that from. But what comes to mind for you guys on this that would be the first thing that you would love to dive into with AI on these use cases what you have listed here?
Yeah, one of the first things that I can think of is the dynamic discovery, and in that process, where the pain comes from, I hear it, I've heard it so many times, is I can do it, I run it, but then it changes the information on me because I have, let's say, 5 sources plugged in. And I don't understand, how can I fix that? Can I just eliminate the other sources, et cetera? Well, this is a way that you can actually leverage AI as well in a couple of ways. One, I don't see any reason why you couldn't use every source that you have available. More information from my perspective is better, so long as it's well managed. So you can leverage AI in order to identify the sources that are available to you, even those that you haven't been made aware of and that you haven't leveraged yet. And then you can also come up, let's say, with a workflow which ensures that your source 1, your primary or your best source, is first, followed by subsequent sources. 2, that there's the distinction between a new item versus an item that's already been detected, right? And now what do I want to do with the records? Let's update as we go through the sources, or offer an update with some human intervention that comes in sort of at the tail end of it. So that you say, yes, this source is trustworthy. Here's other information to the asset record or the CI record. And you can actually do a better job of managing that. And AI is a good place to leverage that sort of activity. I'll leave it to you guys for the other stuff.
Well, Robert, I agree. It's all about risk and impact, right? Yeah. It's risk and impact, guys. And what does that mean? It means that I have to have out there the structure and framework around how I'm going to manage risk and impact within the CMDB. And that can include notifications. They can be automated,
yes,
but only to a certain standpoint. For example, if you have a software issue and you're having to change servers, you want to send a notification of that impact. You want to flow it down in a fashion to be sure it gets to procurement if they're in control of that, which they should be and are, so that they can make the necessary adjustments to keep you in compliance.
Yeah.
For that. That's what we're talking about here. And yes, AI is a tremendous potential to bring that level of normalization to the data so that you can do that effectively.
Yeah, so looking at this from a leadership perspective, executive, whether it's a CXO, irrelevant who it is. I wouldn't say CEO. I mean, they might be interested or the next level down. There's one thing for us to say, okay, here's the new toy we're bringing in place, right? But they actually want to see the value from the toy.
Yep.
Because on one side, okay, so it's dealing with minutia. They hear it all the time. You're dealing with minutia it's painful. I get it, right? But is it worth the cost of admission to actually embrace AI to help with these tasks? And how would you guys respond?
Prove it. Take it on it.
Yeah, take it on, and don't be afraid to. I worked in a project where we had to bring normalization. We had too many flavors of the same type of of software. So you decide what is the source of truth that you're going to trust, and you bring everybody into that package that is impacted in that direction with that particular tool. That's how it works, guys. And is it difficult? And is it stressful? And is it cause some ill will? Occasionally it does, and you have to work through that, and you do it with that element of care and empathy, and a good understanding that's shared by all of why it has to be that way. And that comes through collaboration and putting everybody on the same page in the language, as we talked about a little bit yesterday. You got to get the same language completely across the organization, so they're talking the same apples to apples.
Robert, any thoughts?
No, that all sounds really good. There's some things I guess that that's good.
Okay, because as an executive, taught by a peer, right? You only have so much money in the bucket.
Yeah.
Bucket of money, right? And you have to make a decision. You have this vendors asking millions of dollars to bring AI in place to help with the task we're talking about. Right? I'm just saying $1 million. It might be 100K. I don't know. We'll just say it's in the bucket of money, right? But he says all I have is this bucket of money. I have to make a decision. Do I bring technology in to actually perform these tasks? That means I have to remove headcount somewhere. Or do I keep the headcount to continue business as usual? Or maybe there's a third option, so feel free to chime in on that. But the whole idea is the bucket of money, something's got to give, right? If we're going to bring it in, how do we help them, our executives, prioritize? Yeah, we do need to change. Maybe there is headcount we need to move around in the roles, et cetera. Because that's honestly where everyone's head is today. Does that make sense?
It does.
Absolutely. And again, that gets back to your overall framework. You've got to build that environment of how you're going to handle that, and ensure that the employees out there get the proper training associated with it, so that you can bring them into or repurpose them and move them into an area where they can thrive and still be effective and contribute. You want multiple capabilities, but you have to train to that with your employees that show the promise that they're going to be the people that you want to depend upon. You keep your good employees at all costs, if possible, guys. And the way to do that is to treat them properly and give them that ability to grow.
That's a little bit what we were talking about yesterday, right?
Exactly.
You need somebody who's senior that's going to embrace this.
Exactly.
Right? Your junior resources, they're cost effective on that part. Okay, you have a lower cost. I get it. But is it going to provide you the value you actually need, not just short term, but long term, to actually embrace this?
Right. And I see that with the corporations that do it well. They really do. Anderson Windows was a former customer I had. They actually had that, and it worked tremendously well. They relationship with their relationship with HP at that time, and so that they were in control, and HP accepted and trusted them more than they trusted sometimes their own records internally, which is a feat with HP if you as a former employee. But they did, and actually it got written up by Gartner as a best practice. I mean, the corporations should control the relationships with their vendors, and the vendors should be able to accept that because the relationship is collaboration and trust and for a win-win. That's what it all amounts to at the end of the day. You want that.
Absolutely. Any thoughts on that, Robert?
Just around understanding where their goals are, and the direction they really want to go in. The leveraging of AI right now comes with quite a bit of controversy, just due to current economic times, and the number of folks right now that are offset out there. So for me, that's a pain point. And I like to think that when it comes to these folks in these roles, they truly do want to identify and address those pain points. So they're going to be all over the board. They're going to be everywhere. And AI is a tool that can be used to leverage where that is if you provide it the necessary data with the proper trust behind the scenes. And you can identify those areas, and you can sort of like put the evidence behind the pain point, right? So that you're getting something a bit more direct and data driven rather than just the emotional drive, let's say, of the pain, or of any particular, let's say, goals that, let's say, stakeholders are handing down eventually through the executives in the C-suite. And for me, that's a really big point, an area of some promise, but a lot of caution when it comes to leveraging AI.
Right. You have to be committed to be not reactionary, but responsive.
Yeah.
And that's for the top level down. The CEO's got to demonstrate that as well, and all the C-level managers that are involved.
Absolutely. And even in the playbook, when you take a look at it, and I put the QR code back up for anybody who wants to still get the playbook. It's on LinkedIn. It's on a recent post I put out there in the last 24 hours. But put contingency in place. You expect it to happen out of the box by itself. Has any project you've ever worked that's worked out of the box by itself? I'm just going to put it out there. Probably not, right?
Very few.
Yeah, exactly. It's rarely. And you have to put some type of contingency and work with the team to figure out what that is. Work with the vendor and the team and work collectively. And that's important. Now, the other part with the playbook, and I don't have it, she shows, so feel free to take a look on your own, is also, okay, how do you apply it? And make sure you tailor it. I put it for a couple of different environments as far as some of the estimates out there. Again, it's dependent upon your environment, how you're going to embrace, how much you're going to take on. We provide examples for our space as far as our specific areas. Asset management, software asset management, configuration management. Can you go to other areas? Absolutely. Okay. I'm not saying that shouldn't be there, but how do we embrace it? Because that's our discipline. That's what we think about day to day. That's our life, right? And that's why I took the approach and even say that the executive playbook is literally how to talk to your executives. And within it even says, okay, here's the executives and what their roles are. And if there's issues, okay, where the breakdown is. The people, the process, the technology, the data, the governance. And I've always been a big believer in the 5 areas. Some people just people, process, technology. That's only part of the solution, right? So as we wrap this up, we're at the top of the hour. It's amazing we're here already, even with all the technology issues. We're having a blast. Really appreciate the contributions from Robert, you and Don over the last couple of days. This has been great. We really appreciate that. I'm sure you guys will be on again because we're having a blast on topics like these.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know tomorrow our topic is going to be, I need to get it published. Patrick Duffy is going to be back with me. We're going to talk about job descriptions. So I have some standardized job descriptions I'm going to put out there. You're going to see a post today, and we're going to talk through that tomorrow. At least it should be out today. If not, it's going to be out tomorrow. but we're going to talk about some job descriptions, because right now our job descriptions in our space are all across the board. It's driving me crazy. Personally, it's driving other people crazy too. It's about expectation setting. And sometimes if you've seen me putting my posts out there, you're following me, you see I do comment on some of those job descriptions. I say, you're crazy, because I'm just not being shy about it anymore. It's like, no, this is unreasonable. You have to figure out what it is. So if you see something like that, don't be fearful of it, or feel free to give me a heads up where it is. I'm more than happy to comment on it. I'll just go ahead and put my neck out there. That's fine. But tomorrow is about the job descriptions, talk through it, how to leadership, how to work through it, how to evolve. And we're going to do that for hardware asset management, and do it for ITAM, SAM, and configuration management. We're going to do all three.
Okay, cool.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. And feel free to join us tomorrow, because that's, again, it's another fun discussion that nobody talks about. And actually, I'm going to have a blast with it. Because it's a senior level discussion, like we're talking about. But the juniors, if you're a junior and you're welcome and you're new to the family and the ITAM any space, welcome, right? Because I want you to be here for a long time as well. I mean, we're 30-year plus veterans ourselves, and we want you to stay here for 30 years and enjoy it, because it's not boring by any means. It can be misunderstood, but it's never boring, right? So let's make it happen. So we're 2 minutes after the hour. Appreciate everyone's contributions on this. This has been great. 3 days of AI. Where else are you going to get that, right? And we're going to come back, because I can think about some other discussions where AI is even in the job market that we can leverage, where AI is totally messing with us right now. Is the best way to put it, right? We can all talk about that. So maybe I'll have a session with have a bunch of us on there. We'll probably have like 10 of us on there. We'll talk about that. So that's forthcoming with that. So we'll make that happen. But outside of that, have yourself a great rest of the day. If there's something I can do, please reach out to me. Feel free to share this with friends, family, whatever, that can help and benefit, because that's the whole idea. How do we further enjoy what we do, embrace what we are, make that knowledge and share it more readily, and have fun while we're doing it. That's the most important part, because if we're not having fun, we're in the wrong job, and because I'm having a blast. And it's not just being here live. I love the industry. So thanks, guys. You have yourself a great rest of the day, and we'll follow up tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Patrick Duff.